Today, I'm a stuffy teacher who chats to her apple during her lonely lunch break. Hello, I am the Irish guy. And yeah, like some middle-aged maths teacher, I'm going to give a first quarter of the year grade to every Premier League club. I am grading every Premier League club start of the season. And lads, I'm not going to be afraid to use the red pen. Right, let's go. Arsenal A+. This has been a magical season for Arsenal so far. Seriously, sitting top of the league. 6 points clear of second with 9 wins from 12. Let me take you back to the third game of the season, where the Gunners lose at Anfield and suddenly people were calling Arteta a football fraud. Seriously, because his defensive game plan failed that day, everyone was quick to try and say that he was some sort of football coward, pretending that he was some soggy gremlin who belonged to eating mice under a bridge. Seriously, the amount of disrespect getting thrown in his face just because he'd lost at the home of the champions due to a freak free kick. I saw some Arsenal fans online talking about Arteta as if he had the brains of a chimp, that his slogan of trusting the process was about as hollow as a chocolate Santa Claus. Yeah, you're now cruising top of the league, having only let in 6 goals. You really want to moan about defensive football now, when you're gobbling up clean sheets like they're wine gums? This could so easily have been the season where the Gunners were finally mentally fried, after 3 failed title challenges in a row. But no, to come again for a 4th time, and to be winning the league so far, lads, if you just want to delete free kicks, then Arsenal haven't lost a Premier League match on the road since losing at Newcastle over a year ago. That is wild. Aston Villa B. Yeah, Aston Villa's superstar form since September is probably the most under the radar, most ignored elite run of form a Premier League club has ever done. Seriously, Unai Emery's boys just snapped up a 6th win from 7 games. But nobody is talking about it. Literally no one. Absolutely nobody is paying attention to this rockstar run of form. I mean, seriously, pop yourself down your local for a pub lunch, and you're more likely to hear 2 people debating whether or not it's okay to fancy the gingerbread man of Shrek than it is for either of them to comment on Villa's amazing run. And do you know why? It's because this epic title-winning form from Villa has kind of been cancelled out by their truly hopeless garbage start. Seriously, this club did not win any of their first 5 league matches. They didn't score in any of their first 4 games. It was like watching Frank de Boer's Crystal Palace. They were in the relegation zone in late September, and there were probably Villa Park murmurings about whether or not Emery had lost the plot over the summer. Seriously, Villa fans, don't tell me that you weren't silently scared that Emery had finally turned into the Arsenal version of Emery that you'd all be warned about. But no, to recover from that crisis month, to win nearly every match since, yeah, I'll give you a solid B. Bournemouth B+. Look, I realize that Bournemouth are trickled down to 8th in the league now, which is still a respectable spot for the Cherries, but it does look a little bit like a vanilla egg McMuffin when compared to a steak, considering they were 2nd in the league just 3 weeks ago. Look, considering this club were forced to sell 3/4 of the back 4 over the summer, being raided by the vultures of Real Madrid, PSG and Liverpool, then I was a little bit scared for Bournemouth. It would have been totally understandable if they did start leaking goals. Instead, you totally get somebody no longer being able to tap dance if a badger had eaten their toes. But no, I mean, yeah, Bournemouth have had some hairy afternoons recently. Like, conceding 9 goals in the last 3 matches is a bit of a worry. But I mean, they also went on an 8-game unbeaten run. Bournemouth, they're in a proper challenge for European football. So far, B+. Brentford B+. Brentford seriously shocked me. I know it seems stupid to give them as much as a B+, considering they're stuffed all the way down into 13th, having lost half their matches so far. But no, you don't understand. I thought the Bees were goners. I thought Brentford had about as much chance of surviving as teddy bears would whilst chilling on the edge of a volcano. Come on, they were forced to sell their goalie, their captain, their best player, and their top scorer. Oh yeah, and lost their superstar manager who's overseen all of their success, and replaced him with a complete rookie who recently failed a job interview with MK Dons. Of course I thought they would go down. I thought we were about to see Brentford get crushed, like when a polar bear sits on a sandwich. But no, I mean, they've lost 6 out of their 12 games, yes, but they have not been embarrassed in any match. Their home form has been brilliant, only losing once, and even that was in a tight defeat to Man City. They've smacked 3 goals past Man United and Liverpool. Keith Andrews is overseeing 2 of the most famous nights in this club's recent history. Oh yeah, and they're also 2 games away from a League Cup final. Okay, they're playing Man City away in the quarter, so don't get excited. They've got about as much chance of getting through that as I do of pulling a burger out of my belly button, but still, for the exceptionally low bar that I'd set for the Bees this year, I'm very impressed. Brighton C. Okay, this is me from the future, hence the crazy jumper, but yeah, okay, I'll be honest, I did the video and realized I'd forgotten all about Brighton. How unfair of me! How could I forget the most glorious hipster club in all the land? But lads, what would I give Brighton? I would give Brighton a C because, yeah, they're 6th in the league, but it feels a bit of a fake 6th because the Seagulls do seem quite inconsistent. I mean, they've beaten Man City and Chelsea away, 2 mammoth results. If you're able to do that, then you should be able to win 2 games in a row, right? Which they haven't done at all season. Burnley, D-. Look, I had pretty low expectations set for Burnley. So did you. So did everyone. So I have to bear that in mind when giving them a grade, despite them being second bottom. This feels a bit like correcting Ralph Wiggum's homework at school. You don't want to be too harsh. I mean, they've actually done a little bit better than I thought they would. I mean, to be 8 points clear of last position is good. 10 points from 12 matches isn't terrible for a squad with less talent than a pencil case full of poo. However, Scott Parker must know this is a lost cause. He's somebody who walked away from Bournemouth after a 9-0 defeat at Anfield because he didn't think they had enough to survive. Yeah, that Bournemouth team was pretty light back in 2022, but still, probably had more quality than this bag of undercooked walnuts. Burnley have beaten the other 2 teams in the relegation zone with them, so that is good. And they've only been truly ripped apart in 1 match, which was against Man City, which is Burnley heritage. So overall, when you consider the absolute porridge tools he has to work with, then Parker has done okay-ish. But they're still going down, so I wouldn't go sticking this season on your fridge. Chelsea C. Look, these might seem like a freakishly low score to give a team sitting second in the league, and I already know I'm going to have an outraged mum spitting at me in the next parent-teacher meeting. It might seem unfair, but let's be real here. Chelsea are not in a title challenge, and I'm surprised to see them as high as second because Chelsea have a brilliantly exciting squad, and they came into this season off the back of becoming world champs. However, they then failed to score a goal against Crystal Palace at home, failed to snatch a win at Brentford, lose to both Man United and Brighton soon after that, and oh yeah, the unforgivable let Sunderland leave Stamford Bridge with a win. Sunderland! I'm sorry, but while Chelsea have been pretty good in every other match, I cannot forgive them losing at home to Sunderland. When you've got a Billy Pound squad, it's a huge stain. It's like turning up to a wedding with your suit covered in penguin sick. Sorry, Chelsea, but for the talent you have at your disposal, and with your favourable fixture list so far, then I'm only going to give you a C. Crystal Palace B. Look, for a Crystal Palace team who lost their best player in the summer and who came so very close to losing their best offender, then to be 5th in late November is pretty good. Sure, I mean, they have left points on the table, and the fact that a quarter of the game so far have been dull 0-0 draws, that would scare me a little if I was a Palace fan. But overall, I mean, you're 5th. You've beaten Liverpool 3 times already and are in a League Cup quarter-final. For a team with Ebereki Eze ripped out of their soul with a wooden spoon, that's some solid work from Palace. Everton C+. Everton began this season horribly. To lose away at newly promoted Leeds in the first game of the season, it looked like the Toffees were going to be in a relegation scrap. I'm guessing some Toffees fans are making the trip back to Merseyside, choking on the mini sausage rolls. But they've done pretty well since. I mean, the Toffees have only lost 1 home match so far. They've picked up some solid wins, including their first victory at Old Trafford since 2013, and they did that with 10 men. This season was kind of in danger of getting away from the Toffees when, yeah, they went on a run of just 1 win in 7 matches. But to bounce back from that with 2 wins and 2 clean sheets, and for Moyes to finally get Man United revenge, yeah, I think Everton pretty good so far. Now, why couldn't this have been the season where I said for every week they spent in the relegation zone I'd pour milk on my face? Instead, I made that forfeit with Wolves and bread. Why do I have no luck? Fulham D-. Fulham are being saved by their home form. The only reason the Cottagers aren't yet plunged headfirst into a relegation battle is because they are still clicking at home and still able to beat the teams they should be beating in their own patch. I mean, they've only lost 1 home match so far against Arsenal, and they've beaten Leeds, Brentford, Wolves and Sunderland. Their home form is very decent. It's just the away form where they've been absolute wet sponge cake, losing at Chelsea, Aston Villa, Bournemouth, Newcastle and Everton. For some strange reason, whenever Marco Silva's boys set foot on an away day coach, they seem to then turn into spineless jelly babies who can't seem to put up much of a fight. And this is a worry, a huge worry, and if they don't fix their away form, they could really spend the first chunk of 2026 in a scrap for their lives. And can you imagine that Marco Silva's Fulham contract ends on a shock relegation? He was probably expected to run that down and be inundated with job offers from monster clubs, but if they go down, it'll be like breaking up with your wife and then going down the pub after forgetting to wipe last night's poo off your face. Ain't nobody gonna want to talk to you now. Leeds E+. Is there such thing as an E+? Look, it seems weird that I'm being a smidge harsher on Leeds than I am Burnley when they're literally above them in the table. But I think that Daniel Farke has more quality to work with. Yeah, their summer signings were very decent. I absolutely think this Leeds squad is comfortably better than Burnley's, and they should be doing better better than languishing in the bottom three. I mean, Leeds began the season decently, but they're running out of steam. They've lost 5 of the last 6 matches, and getting smacked up at Burnley was a real bad look. It might seem a little harsh to dump Daniel Farke, but is it? The guy proved at Norwich City he's got no clue on how to keep a team up. You'd probably get better results from him if you asked him to try and communicate with snowmen. This Leeds squad is packed with fresh ballers who've played in the Champions League. Yes, even Sean Longstaff. So they should be doing better than this. If I'm the Leeds chairman, then I would dump this Championship Weasel coach for Brendan Rodgers. Quick. Liverpool F. Liverpool are 12th. 12th in the league. Don't forget, when the Reds wrapped up this Isak signing, adding him to their pile of expensive new recruits, the title race was supposed to be done. Finished over finito gonzo. Nobody could surely compete with these Red Galacticos now, right? Oh yeah, Liverpool's title challenge is done in November. 6 defeats for the last 7 league games. Are you for real? That stinks of Leeds. This has been 2 months of relegation form. But, I mean, Leeds have Sean Longstaff in midfield. What's your excuse? You've spent £500 million and you're behind Everton in the league. Yeah, finishing below David Moyes' Everton is something this club did 20 years ago. How is it still happening now? You can't. You absolutely cannot finish behind Moyes' Everton. It'll just be game over if you do. Honestly, it'll be so embarrassing. You should probably be made to hand back your Premier League medals if that happens. But this is an absolutely horrendous start. Dreadful. Of course I'm giving you an F, because if any Liverpool fans were shown this graphic at the start of the season, oh, they would fully barf up every last crumb of their morning Weetabix. It is revolting. Man City C+. Man City are having a decent season. A better season than last, sure, but again, to have lost a third of their Premier League matches so far, I don't care what you say, this Man City squad are absolutely better than that. This is sloppy stuff, because I think City have the best starting 11 in the league. It's like people take Erling Haaland for granted. Oh, no. This club are armed with the most phenomenal goal machine in the world. It is not within the realm of possibilities to think that Pep should have them top, and that's how huge that last minute Martinelli equaliser against Man City the Emirates look now. Look, City have looked very good in many matches, but losing at home to an average Spurs and getting dusted up at Brighton, Aston Villa and Newcastle is sloppy work. Very sloppy. About as sloppy as trying to eat an ice cream on the bus. City are doing okay, but they can be so much better. I mean, compared to Pep's previous levels of consistency, then if I'm a school teacher correcting this homework, then I would feel more disappointed than realizing you've matched with your mum on Bumble. Man United C+. It shows how far Man United have fallen recently, that I'm actually giving them a very decent C+ grade for being as high as 10th. I know, I almost feel dirty giving this club a pat on the back for that. Imagine what Sir Alex Ferguson would say if his Man United team had 18 points from 12 games. He'd probably be threatening to eat his defenders' fingers for lunch. But for a completely crisis club who just finished an embarrassing 15th, then I think Ruben Amorim has done okay. I mean, to juggle the ridiculous levels of scrutiny and pressure, to still be able to go out there and win 4 home matches on the bounce, to have beaten Chelsea and racked up an historic win at Anfield, that is okay. I mean, sure, there are still the embarrassing moments, like getting bullied at Man City and Brentford, and yet losing at home to the 10-man Toffees, which is for sure. For a proud club like Man United, it is about as embarrassing as being caught trying to rizz up a kangaroo. But when you weigh in all of the context, then for the supposed banter club to be just 3 points off 4th, and for them to be above Liverpool in the league, having won at Anfield, oh, those Man United fans are going to live off that one for a while. Harry Maguire has them eating good, as if they just discovered a school bag full of chicken nuggets. Newcastle C+. Newcastle are 14th in the league. 14th? How? How have the Magpies beaten Man City and yet still languish a few places above the bottom 3? It feels like the most unfair 14th in the world. I have seen Newcastle finish 14th in this league. I vividly remember when we finished there under Graham Souness 20 years ago, and I can promise you that Newcastle team was terrible. That was a hopeless team who merited 14th. I mean, come on. We won 1 of our final 10 league games of the season. You have to be pretty bad to finish 14th, so that's why I don't understand how Anyhow's boys are 14th now. Lads, we didn't concede a goal away from home until a week before Halloween. We narrowly lost in the last minute against the reigning champions when we had 10 men on the pitch, and lost in the last minute to Arsenal, and beat Wolves, beat Nottingham Forest, beat Fulham, beat Man City. I don't get it. How are we 14th? Yes, the 3-1 defeats to West Ham and Brentford, terrible. But I still don't think this team has been bad enough to be 14th. It feels like a fake 14th, and chuck in the fact that Newcastle are also flying in the Champions League and just 1 match away from another cup semi-final. Then you know what? I'm still going C+. It looks worse than it actually is. Nottingham Forest F. Okay, Nottingham Forest are recovering pretty well under Sean Dyche right now. He is steering them away from their relegation woes, but I am sorry. Look at their season so far. It has been a complete self-sabotage disaster. This is a team who were so good last year that I was looked at for being the village dope for daring to suggest they wouldn't be playing Champions League football right now. Yeah, they then sacked Nuno Santo and then bid off his replacement after a month, and now Sean Dyche is their third manager trying to clean up this absolute fruitcake mess that was left behind. Seriously, I mean, for your Europa League team to go 9 league games without a win, that is so unapologetically horrid. After once again spending big in the summer, I'm sure Forest fans, their goal this season was to go further and squeak into the Champions League, right? Instead, Dyche probably won't get you any higher than 14th. Sorry lads, but this season has so far been a total mess. Sunderland A+. 12 games in, Sunderland are 7th. This was the team I said would get relegated without a fuss as the worst ever team in Premier League history, with no wins in 9 points. Instead, it's 5 wins and 19 points. They've beaten Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. What is going on? Seriously, what is going on? I have to give them an A+. I have to give them an A+. Although, don't forget, whisper quietly, but Sunderland also haven't won in over a month. They're gonna start to crumble. Tottenham D. I don't like Tottenham's season so far. Look, if you were to go out there and say, okay, yeah, Thomas Frank is taking over a team who just finished 17th. Okay, fine. Sure, but let's be real. This is absolutely a squad nowhere near the levels of a team who should have finished 17th. It's not like he's just been given Burnley. Frank doesn't get a pass just because Postecoglou fell asleep at the wheel. I mean, Spurs have been surprisingly decent on the road so far, beating Man City, West Ham, Leeds and Everton. Frank's away day form has been pretty good, and that is what has them top half, because their home form has been wretchedly dull. If there's one thing Spurs are not allowed to be, it's boring. But lads, I mean, there's literally Christmas music in the shops now, and Tottenham fans haven't seen a win in their own stadium since beating Burnley in mid-August. And against Chelsea and Arsenal, big huge matches, Spurs offer the attacking threat of a deaf wasp. For a team who offered so much after surprisingly coming very close to snatching the UEFA Super Cup off PSG on the eve of the season, then for them to be now this boring, to be no more exciting than a toothpaste sandwich, I think it's poor, and Frank needs to do way better. West Ham D-. Nuno Santo is saving West Ham. And I'm probably wrong about the prediction where I said he'd become the first manager for the history to be sacked by 2 clubs twice, to be sacked by 2 different clubs in 1 season. Look, the Hammers have had a good November, but don't forget their nightmare start, taking 4 points for the first 9 matches, spending 10 weeks in the relegation zone when you've got expensive big money stars in your team. It was an embarrassment and is all the proof you need that Graham Potter has been a rotten milkshake all along. I feel like this is an episode of Scooby-Doo when you rip up Potter's mask and it turns out it was just 5 squirrels in a suit all along. Wolves F-. Awful. Awful. 2 points from 12 games. That is an absolute horrendous joke. F-. You're lucky it's only F- because really any teacher would put this exam paper in a bin and probably expel the student, because this is just, we're almost at a stage now where Wolves are unsavable. What you need to do now is make sure you don't become the worst team in Premier League history, because honestly, if you're actually become worse than that hopeless Derby County team from 2008, it would be the worst effort from a Premier League club in the history of football. Just, it can't be. Wolves, sort it out. Anyway, that's the end of it. Let me know, because what do you think? Am I too harsh? Am I too nice? Let me know in the comments. Enjoy the video. Don't forget to like, share, ways. I'll talk to you in a while.